If the Republican primary goes all the way to a contested convention, then technically anyone could come out of it as the nominee on the Republican side. And former Speaker of the House, John Boehner, has a suggestion for who it should be. And it might shock you. He says, if we don't have a nominee who can win on the first ballot, I'm for none of the above. They all had a chance to win. None of them won. So I'm for none of the above. I'm for Paul Ryan to be our nominee. Paul Ryan. Third in line right now. He's already pretty close. Mm-hmm. And we're going to have his response, but what do you think?
I think that people are slightly misinterpreting Boehner's comments. I don't think he's saying that he's for Paul Ryan to be the nominee. I think he's saying that he's for himself to be the nominee. So he says, well, he's a Speaker of the House. Mm-hmm. Oh, who was a former Speaker of the House? Now, Paul Ryan has a job currently. John Boehner doesn't, right? He's seen as above the fray because he sometimes opposed the Tea Party. Right.
So did John Boehner.
And
Paul Ryan likes eating oranges. John Boehner is an orange.
Okay, there you go. And so I think partly what Boehner meant to do, but failed at, was, hey, if you're picking someone who wasn't running, I'm right here.
I didn't pick up on that. That's interesting. Do you think the Republican Party would accept John Boehner as nominee?
Look,
the Senate hated him.
No. The establishment likes John Boehner a lot. Okay, so, and yeah,
you talking about the donors?
I'm talking about the donors, and I'm talking about, no, the senators didn't hate him. No.
Really? That was my perception coming.
No. Here's how that worked, okay? So Boehner's as establishment as it gets. You don't get to be Speaker of the House if you're not. And all of his positions were super pro-establishment, all the way down the line, pro-trade, pro-business, yada, yada, right? And the Tea Party...
Entitlement reform.
Yeah, exactly. Tea Party kept pressing him from the right, so he had to balance that out. And every once in a while, he would disagree with the Senate, including the Senate Republicans, because he's being pressed by his right wing. But every time it was framed as, and I believe it, that he was being pressed to go further right wing. If he had his druthers, he would have agreed with the Senate Republicans, who are already massively right wing.
Yeah.
Right? And so they like it. Is it going to be Boehner? No, it's not going to be Boehner.
No, it's going to be Paul Ryan.
Right.
Who just established that.
No, but Boehner is out of power and out of favor, and so... And it shows you even his test bubble. He's so out of power they didn't even pick up on that it might be him. Like,
yeah, I did not even consider it. I mean, I barely would consider that it could be Paul Ryan, although if they were looking for someone in the Republican Party who had a case to be made that they could come in without having had to have run, I suppose the Speaker of the House, the representative branch of Congress, third in line for the presidency, you could make that case. And he's young. He's conservative. He's also not loved by the Tea Party wing either. He's not going to be the president, but I could understand why they would bring it up. Now, he did respond. He said, I actually think you should run for president if you're going to be president, if you want to be president. I'm not running for president. I made that decision consciously not to. You know, I haven't given any thought to this stuff, talking about the contested convention. People say, what about it? I say, well, there are a lot of people running for president. We'll see. Who knows? Now, that looks a bit up in the air.
So everybody goes nuts over that.
Yes.
The minute he says contested convention, will I get involved? I don't know. Who knows? People are like, oh my God, here comes Paul Ryan.
Yeah.
Now he's a guy who does have power, so this is real. People will consider that.
Yeah.
Now, is it really? Does he really mean it?
Well, he says, I don't see that happening. I'm not thinking about it. I'm happy where I am, so no. And his, I believe his press secretary came out and said that he is not going to be. He would not accept it.
So this is the usual game played in Washington, where they send mixed messages so everybody can speculate about it and get himself considered, while at the same time saying, no, I don't want to mess up my relationship with the guy who might eventually be the nominee.
Yep.
If he perceives me as trying to do an end run around him.
He just had a terrific phone call.
Yeah, tremendous
phone call
with Donald Trump, if you believe Trump. So, so what he's doing here is very understandable. To be fair to him, I'd probably do the same thing. Okay, so if I want to be considered, I'd go, maybe. And then no. You'd really have to convince me, right? So it's a very standard Washington political game. What does it mean? What's the bottom line? It means, if they threw their hands up and said, okay, it's not going to be any of these guys, who should it be? Paul, will you do it? His answer would be, hell yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah,
right?
probably.
But he's not going to make any effort to do it.
Yeah,
You see
he
what
has
I'm
to
saying?
look like he's reluctantly taking it up.
That's right.
And especially like he was the VP candidate. He's still young. I have no doubt that as ambitious a guy as you must be to end up as Speaker of the House, he sees himself running at some point, and he doesn't want to F that up by making it look like he's desperate to take it without an election earlier on, which
Yes.
can frustrate the wrong people.
And finally, to be fair to him, if somebody came up and said to me, "Would you like to be president?" my answer would be, "Hell yeah, I would." So I don't know why. I don't know why I have to say no in the beginning to play games. In this case, you know why he's doing it, for political gamesmanship.
Exactly,
here.
yeah.
It's necessary. But to be fair to him, of course he should take it if given the chance.
Yeah.